Let us talk about quality education and the ability to get a good school for your child who has special needs. Yeah.
Now, quality education is relative. Because let's first deal with what the situation should be before we get into the reality. So when you talk about quality education, what exactly are you looking for? The Basic Education Act of Kenya talks about all children accessing quality education. And it even has a whole section on special education and all of that. And we all know our institutions. We have KISE, which develops the syllabus on special needs. They're still developing that syllabus. Or rather updating it, not developing, because it's there, it's just being updated. We have, this is now a role where the healthcare center also comes in, because you have to go for assessments through the nearest public hospital system. And then once you get your assessment from the hospital on your diagnosis and the support needs you need, you go to KISE with that report, then KISE assesses you again in terms of social interactive needs and also for placement purposes. And then you end up in a school. That is what the situation should be. Reality on the ground, though, well, I don't have to explain it to most parents. You know exactly the challenges you're going through. And especially because the National Council for Persons with Disabilities also plays a role in all of this. And we know the services that they're offering currently is financial assistance to access education assistance. Mostly it's largely money, paying in form of scholarships. But then remember, when you're talking about disability, there are other aspects you have to consider, what we call reasonable accommodation. Like for the blind, they need braille. For the deaf, sign language. Then we have autism, CP. What exactly are we providing for us to be able to go to school?
Yeah.
So those are the challenges that people need to look at. And then the other thing about disability and education is that you can't put a blanket cover that, oh, everyone needs braille, everyone needs sign language, everyone needs this. Especially when you talk about mental disability, it's a bit complex. So while you should say we're providing reasonable accommodation for you to attend school, but still custom make it to the needs of this child, because our needs are different. I could have CP and autism, and I'm a wheelchair user. So when you address just putting ramps in so that I can access my class, you haven't addressed the needs of me as an autistic or me as an CP person, you know. Like autism, I like children with autism have this thing, they can really, they get, their attention span, it's taken away so fast by simple things. Simple things like a classroom, you know, this paint we use in the class, it's always this glossy paint. And then remember there is sun. So the sun, because they're attracted to light, they will be looking at that spot where the sun is on the wall, because it's reflecting the sun.
Yes.
And then the whole day, remember the sun moves. So you're wondering, why is this child not paying attention to me? The whole day, they're just following that sunlight. And then when you ask for an assistive device there, they tell you there's nothing we can provide. Yet here, it is clear, what is the assistive device you need? Just change the color on the wall. Make it a dull color that does not reflect the light. And you'll see the child will pay attention to the teacher, you know, such little things. But then when someone gives you a blanket that this is what we're providing as education, and you know very well it won't fit my child, that is now where we start discussing what is quality education. So I won't give an answer to say this is quality, this is quality. No. What matters is quality education for a child with special needs must, one, fit their needs. Take the child for a proper assessment based on their needs. And then secondly, place them in a school that provides reasonable accommodation according to their needs. So it's not just put a blanket over it. You've done my assessment, you know what my needs are, give me reasonable accommodation according to those needs. And any child will actually learn in any setting. We also encourage different systems. Quality education is adjusting the syllabus, the system to fit me. Like you notice, a lot of kids with autism tend to do better in the SCE education system because it's individualized, it is personal. it is one-on-one.
Yes.
They tend to do better in homeschooling because, again, remember the struggle for children with autism is they can't multitask. It's one task at a time. But when you look at our classrooms, the way they are set up, it is 100 million things going on at the same time. You know, there's a teacher talking there, there's a blackboard, there's things on the wall, there's other children making noises and everything like that. So they can't focus in a regular classroom. Versus if you do one-on-one ACE and it's a room where, let's say we're 5 of us maximum, then the child is able to concentrate and develop better in such a classroom, and they will actually learn and grow. So when we talk about do not give blanket responses, because the other thing we get a lot is take your child to a special needs school. I'm like, it's still the same problem. It's the same problem, and even worse, because we've mixed a bunch of disabilities in one room and the classroom is still not conducive. There's too much going on. So my kid will still not learn even in that special needs environment. So when we talk about assessment, it's both broad to place me, but individual to identify my reasonable accommodations. Now that is what I would call quality education. Yeah.
So when we talk about if you can get a good school, as a parent with special needs, what's a good school to you now? No, we've talked about the quality education, so what's your ideal school?
My ideal school would be a school where my child is integrated. They're not separated, not special units. We have normal children here and special unit there. No, my child is integrated into the same classroom with these other children so that they can be able to grow and focus and all of that. Secondly, a school which allows me to have a shadow teacher on my child. Well, I do know she's in a regular class and all of that, but at the same time, she might need a little bit more support than the average child to get to where the average child is. So we do require shadow teachers. Finally, a school which allows occupational therapy to happen in that school. Because you see, our kids, one of the problems I have with the system, the way it's set up, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and all of that are assumed to be medical procedures, which they are not. They're not. This is day-to-day living, you know, teaching me how to move from point A to B, order, scheduling, and things like that, and how to behave in a society. So technically, therapies should be in the school setting, not in a hospital setting. Because this is where you'll find me on a day-to-day. If you want to teach me how to live, how then do you teach me to live in a hospital? You're supposed to teach me how to live in my home, in my school where I'm supposed to be found. So the third thing in an ideal school would be a school that allows or hires, preferably, occupational therapists to allow our kids at least to get that extra. There's a school I know that actually does that. It adopts the ACE system, because the good thing with ACE, remember, is it's individualized. The system is changed. The syllabus is changed to suit the child's needs rather than the teacher's needs. So I can even actually have my classes like on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm doing occupational therapy, you know. So it accommodates other aspects of the child into the system. So if I can find a school that will give me those three, I'd say that is a good school. But let's be honest, this is Kenya. We are yet to catch up with that system. So until we find a school, especially in the private sector, you know, for government schools, they don't have a choice. They're actually set up to act in a certain way. But for private schools, we can actually modify that accordingly. So until our attitudes change as schools, we won't have inclusive education in Kenya. Yeah. And the most painful bit is, especially when you go with your child and then you disclose, especially these invisible disabilities, you disclose, oh, my child is this. Suddenly, the principal doesn't want to pick up your calls. Or the school fees increases by double, you know. Like when I ask for a shadow teacher, they'll be like, you know, but you will pay the shadow teacher, right? You know, the few schools that actually agree to host her. Or then they tell you, no, you know, this school is not fit for that. And I'm like, actually, every school is fit for a child with disability. The problem is largely just the attitudes. Or the people start telling you, oh, you know, it's expensive, it's too expensive to put ramps and things like that. And I'm like, it's not. And the funny thing you'll notice, in schools which actually do put ramps, you'll find all the children, not just the wheelchair children, all the children will use those ramps versus the stairs.
Yes.
So you're like, why then did you refuse to put them from the beginning? Universal design. Design your school from an angle of a child with disability, and you'll actually see it makes the quality of education even better for children without disabilities. Like this issue of distractions, the paint on the wall. You see, the problem with autistics is that they can't help themselves. So they have to stare at that one point which is attracting their attention. But if you actually look at the rest of the class, even other kids, when they get bored, they start staring at that same spot. So when you actually change it to suit the child with autism, you end up improving the education environment for children without autism as well, you know.
Yeah, so I think that has been very educational.
Yeah.
And my take home is, it all starts from home.
Yeah.
Because home is where the child is brought up first. Yeah. So as parents and even the extended family, we need to make sure we are including the child and not excluding them. Yeah. We need to build their confidence. We also need to shape up their skills so that in future they are going to take up their responsibilities without needing a guardian. Yeah. And by the time we are done doing all that, so when you're sending them into the world, you've already shaped them so that they now can fit in this world that sometimes is so unaccommodative. Yes. Yeah. So I think that has been my biggest takeout. Even in the other interview, you really emphasize that parents, they need to play a key and active role. Yeah. If you have any more questions that you want us to ask Felicia, she's always available, and let us know your thoughts and your feedback. Until next time, have a good one.
Thank you.